Alright, The Naked Gun 2025, a reboot of the classic spoof franchise, released on July 18, 2025, aimed to recapture the anarchic, rapid-fire comedic style of its predecessors while introducing a new generation to the timeless absurdity. It successfully delivered a constant barrage of visual gags, puns, and slapstick, proving that true silliness never goes out of style. The Naked Gun 2025, from the files of Police Squad. The film opens with a chaotic, utterly nonsensical sequence characteristic of the Naked Gun style. Von Strudel, a self-proclaimed gastronomic genius with an equally absurd accent, plans to destabilize the world economy by manipulating global food supplies. He interrogates a suspect by accidentally setting off a smoke machine and causing a small fire at a vegan cheese shop, leading to a hilarious overreaction from the owner. Jane is initially exasperated by Frank's chaotic presence, mistaking his blunders for profound idiocy, but slowly begins to warm to his bizarre charm and surprising accidental effectiveness. Their burgeoning romance is filled with classic slapstick, mistaken identities, and moments where Frank inadvertently gets them into increasingly ludicrous situations, such as crashing a high-society cheese tasting by mistaking the samples for edible art installations. He also stumbles into a romantic comedy film shoot, mistaking the actors for actual criminals and ruining multiple takes with his well-intentioned but disastrous interventions. Frank Jr., somehow infiltrating the lair, dressed as a giant wedge of Swiss cheese, causes absolute mayhem. Frank Jr. inadvertently triggers all of Von Strudel's elaborate traps, leading to henchmen being flattened by oversized cheese wheels, falling into vats of acid fondue, and being launched into the sky by malfunctioning butter churns. Frank even gets into a one-sided fight with a highly trained guard dog, which he mistakes for a particularly aggressive show poodle. Frank Jr. and Jane track one of Von Strudel's henchmen to a bustling airport. Von Strudel, cornered, attempts to escape in a personal dirigible shaped like a giant brie wheel. He then drives off with Jane, their new relationship marked by a series of increasingly ludicrous driving mishaps that are only funny because they defy all laws of physics and common sense. Ed Hawken is left alone in his office, staring at a mountain of paperwork generated by Frank's latest success, sighing and muttering, "Some days, I miss the good old days. When I was the one cleaning up his dad's messes, the world is safe, thanks to the most incompetent detective on earth, ensuring that chaos and laughter will always follow Frank Drebin Jr. Von Strudel's plan, and his dirigible, crash in a spectacular, dairy-themed explosion. He plans to force them to sign over global dairy rights by threatening to unleash his concrete milk bacteria on their entire food supply. Here, a classic Naked Gun multi-layered gag sequence unfolds, involving a series of increasingly absurd disguises, a runaway baggage carousel. Frank Jr. is hailed as a hero, though no one can quite explain how he achieved victory. And Frank Jr. somehow getting stuck in the airport's ventilation system, accidentally falling onto a plane's wing mid-takeoff. His ultimate goal, to corner the market on all premium, ethically sourced artisanal cheeses, forcing the world to bow to his curd-laden demands. He believes that by controlling the world's finest dairy, he controls the world's most sophisticated palates, and thus, its leaders. Detective Frank Drebin Jr. Liam Neeson, embracing his comedic timing, son of the legendary Frank Drebin, attempts to foil a high-stakes jewel heist at a prestigious museum. He's earnest but oblivious, constantly surrounded by the detritus of his own blunders. True to form, his efforts result in maximum collateral damage, a confused culprit, and the jewels somehow ending up on a nearby street performer's monkey. He manages to catch the thief by pure, accidental luck, but the chief of police, Captain Ed Hawken Omar Sy, is at his wit's end. Ed, a much younger, more exasperated version of the character, constantly battles against the inherited chaos of the Drebin legacy. Frank Jr. is a loving, but utterly incompetent detective, whose logical leaps are non-existent and whose commitment to justice is only matched by his unparalleled ability to cause destruction. The central plot kicks off with a sinister new threat, a brilliant, flamboyant, and surprisingly charming international villain named Baron von Strudel Bill Hader. Frank Jr. is brought onto the case, much to Ed's despair. His initial investigation immediately causes havoc. During his bumbling investigation, Frank Jr. meets Jane Spencer Lily James, a brilliant, no-nonsense cheesemonger who unwittingly becomes a key figure in Von Strudel's plan. Von Strudel's methods involve sabotaging global dairy farms with a genetically modified bacteria that turns milk into concrete, leading to milk truck explosions and dairy cows attempting to unionize. The stakes escalate when von Strudel kidnaps several world leaders during an international cheese summit. Yes, a cheese summit. The climax is set at von Strudel's elaborate, villainous lair, a giant, cheese-shaped fortress disguised as a dairy farm, complete with laser-powered cow milking machines and a vat of bubbling fondue, which is actually acid. The final showdown is a rapid-fire succession of gags, parodies, and physical comedy. In the midst of the chaos, Jane uses her expert knowledge of cheese to disarm von Strudel's main weapon, which is revealed to be a giant milk cannon that converts milk into concrete on impact. Frank Jr., in a moment of pure, accidental genius, uses one of the activated milk cannons to fire a stream of concrete milk at the dirigible, solidifying its balloon and sending it plummeting. The world leaders are saved, and von Strudel is apprehended or perhaps encased in his own concrete milk, leaving his fate hilariously ambiguous. The film ends with Frank Jr. being given a medal by a weary but appreciative president.